Hey y'all. So recently, I've been going through a little bit of a rough patch. Nothing crazy, but enough to where I've been feeling pretty stressed out, and it's been a little rough. I felt like it was worth talking about on here since during this rough patch, there were moments where I felt kind of hopeless. That familiar feeling of despair crept in, and it felt like, nothing was really going to get better for a minute. And I'm feeling better now. I had a chance to see my therapist, and things have improved a little bit, but I wanted to talk about it on here since that that feeling of hopelessness is something that I know we can all relate to, but it's one that I feel is becoming more and more present, especially right now. And I wanted to touch on it since I feel like the discourse around hope and whether or not hope is worth feeling has been a little bit tainted over the years. And I just wanted to hit on it since I still believe hope is a worthwhile strategy, and I want to convince y'all of it. First, though, if you're new to this channel, thanks for clicking on this video. As a heads up, I've been sick recently, so my voice is not quite up to par as it's been. I'm going to do my best to edit around the coughs, but just as a heads up, if you see sharp edits in this video, that's why. So I wanted to start this off by telling a story. It's a story of basically the most hopeless I've ever felt in my entire life. It was back in my freshman year of high school, and that year had been really rough for me. I had gone into high school with a really close group of friends with good grades. I was in sports. Like, everything felt like it was going well for me. And over the course of that year, it felt like I had lost everything. By the end of it, I'd been broken up with the first girlfriend I'd ever had. My friend groups were falling apart, and I didn't trust the people in it, and they didn't really trust me. I'd quit the sport I was doing and had only recently started to try and rejoin some groups and organizations like band. And the summer starts, and I was all alone. It was the lowest I had ever felt. I was genuinely depressed. I had lost a lot of weight, and things weren't going great with my family. It was a bad time. And I feel like it's important to talk about because how I got out of that and how I moved on from those insane feelings of hopelessness that I was feeling at the time really resonate with me now, and I feel like it's a good strategy to use. I remember that whole summer feeling like things were never going to get better, and like I had wasted my life essentially. I remember there was a night, near the end of the summer where I found my old phone I'd had, and I went through some of the messages on it. These were from earlier in that year and were mostly from my friends. And reading through these messages, I up until that point, every day had felt like a whirlwind of loneliness and anxiety and fear. And for a moment, it felt like all of that paused. And I was looking back at a life of someone who wasn't feeling this despair that I had. And I remember sitting there thinking, things can be that way. It was almost like I had forgotten that I could be happy. I had forgotten that things could be good, that they didn't have to be the way they were. And in that moment, I felt suddenly this urge of, I can make things better. And that kind of led me to where I am now. Up until that point, I had felt no hope. Like everything was falling apart and that I just could not fix anything. But after that moment, it was like, wait, if things were good once, they can get better again. And so I started focusing on improving small things. And I'm not going to go to the whole story now, maybe for another video. But that moment of remembering that there was a time when I was happy and I had hope gave me a sense that maybe things can get better. And I'd argue that's what hope is. Just remembering that things can get better. And obviously, this isn't the case for everything. And I'm not here to harp on anybody who is going through something, terminal illnesses, things like that, where that type of hope isn't useful. And I've never gone through that, so I'm not going to speak on it. I'm not going to say I have the answers to that, because I don't. I'm talking more of the day-to-day, the moment-to-moment type of hope, where it feels like things aren't going to get better, but they were good once. And maybe it's naive to say, but if things were good once, most likely they can be good again. It's just going to take some work and some effort, and it's not going to be a comfortable experience trying to get back there, but it is possible for things to get better. And I feel like we forget what hope is, which is just the belief that things will be different from what they are now, right? And you can sit there and say, well, there's no hope for what we're going through right now. Like, our country is falling apart. Everybody hates each other, no matter which side you're on, they do. And it's just going to continue to be bad. There's no chance of getting out of this. But not only is that not a useful strategy, it's just not true. The long curve of the universe bends towards justice, and we're right now is a tiny speck in the grand scale of what things are going to be. Sitting there and saying, well, they're always going to be this way, so what's the point of even trying to make it better, just condemns you to having to live with the fact that it's going to be like that for longer. It's not a practical strategy. And while, yes, it's easy to say, well, if that's the case, why don't you do something about it? But it's also easy to say that, it is possible for things to improve, for things to get better. They've done that for thousands of years, and they're probably going to continue doing that for thousands of more years. I mean, modern medicine, right, is the embodiment of that. The belief that things can get better. We have vaccines, and we have the ability to see microbes because people believed things could get better. They could improve on things. Our whole system, this whole world that we've built for ourselves, is based on the idea that things can get better. We can improve on things. And I feel like sitting there and letting yourself fall in despair, while easy, is just not worth your time, right? Because at the end of the day, things can get better, and they're going to get better. It may not always be a straight path, but it's going to happen. And the easiest way to make it happen is to decide it's going to happen quicker. I mean, that's just the way things work. I know it's a easy thing to say, and it's harder to practice when everything feels like it's falling apart. And trust me, I'm still going through it right now, but it's going to change. And if you're hopeless and you're feeling that despair, the likelihood it's going to change into what you want it to be is slim. If you really don't like the way things are, whether that be in your own life, whether that be with your friends, whether that be with the world, resigning yourself to, well, it's always been this way, it's never going to change, or it's getting worse, so what's the point? Well, if you always believe that, then yeah, it's just going to keep getting worse. You're going to have to be the person who changes it. That's just the bottom line. There's no way to change things unless you believe they're going to change, because they always have. And yeah, it's just, I feel like hope has been diminished in our world. And I feel like not only is that not fair to us, but it's not fair to it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. This is a bit more rambly than normal, but like I said, going through a little bit of a rough patch, and I am still fairly sick. So I will do my best to edit around those coughs. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, all the random YouTuber stuff you always hear. It does help me out, and I love seeing the numbers go up. Anyway, take care.